stories about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. Coming to you today from this little bioretention system in Red Bank, where we are out here filming the very last video in our bioretention in the real world course. But this video is not about that. This video is about, we turned up to site and we're just having a bit of a look at it because the video for the course is about how to investigate a system in the real world. So of course the first thing we did was come and have a little bit of a look at it. And so we came up to this fence to have a look and went and leant on it. And guess what? This fence is actually really broken. And it inspired me to have a little bit of a chat about safety. And this is partly in the context of stormwater and bioretention, but partly more generally in society and bringing in my interest in human movement. Because I have some mixed feelings about safety. Like, on the one hand, there's some really obvious situations where safety procedures, workplace health and safety procedures, as we apply them in our stormwater world and more generally, make a lot of sense. If someone's on a work site and there's risks of electrocution, there are crushing risks, there's whatever, drowning risks, there's, if you're working in a bushland area and at risk of being bitten by a snake. These are all real risks that are important to mitigate against. And I'm not in this video, when I am going to question some safety things, I'm not questioning that sort of thing. But where I'm going to raise some points is when we have situations like this, where there are drops here, and there's a drop onto concrete here, even, that's quite reasonable. It's the best part of head height down to there, so there's some fencing around the edge of this bioretention system to keep it safe. One of the things that happens though in society in general, as we add more and more safety into things, sure, it makes it less likely that I can accidentally walk through here and tumble off that drop. But on the other hand, it also tunes down my sense of awareness of self and awareness in the environment. The less risk there is for me to face, the less I am switched on to potential risks. So the more likely it is then that a small thing is actually going to do me harm, right? What I'm getting at here is that if I'm not having to walk around all the time going, okay, you know what? I want to make sure I don't fall off that drop. Then I can switch off my safety monitor, so to speak, and I'm paying less attention to it. So then I'm more likely to get injured by little small things. I'm more likely, for example, then, to get injured because we had a drop here, but my expectation was now that that drop's totally safe, so I'm not paying any attention, because it should be if I lean on that. But in this case, the fence is broken. And it was, right, if I do that one more time, I'm actually going to fall in now, right? And it makes me question some of this. At what point does safety procedures start to become counterproductive because the safety risk that's being mitigated is less serious than the follow-on safety risks because my perception of safety down-tunes. So in this situation, maybe this fence does make the situation safer because a kid that's just randomly running around isn't going to run through there and fall off. So maybe the trade-off of having that so the kid can't run through and fall off it, maybe that prevents more risk than the risk that now exists because I might lean on it and fall through when I wouldn't otherwise have. But we have other situations that play out in the world, for example, where our attempts to create a safe environment to short-term acute problems actually do more damage in the long term in chronic ways. And so an example of this is footwear in the workplace. And this is really getting into my interest in human movement here. Is you might work in an office situation, and many offices have policies where you have to wear shoes around the office. And I've questioned those before with certain companies, and you get responses like, oh, it's so that you don't step on a staple, or it's so there might be something hot spilt on the floor, or there might be whatever. You got to wear shoes so we keep you safe because there might be something on the floor. And sure, the shoes might keep you safer against that, but it's also really well known that shoes affect the way the foot behaves. And so I have for the side, and a lot of people in the stormwater world don't realise this, but I've had some interest in human movement and worked in this space for several years now. One of the things we see really commonly in human movement is when people have been wearing shoes for ages and ages and ages and not spending time out of their shoes, the foot stops to work the way the foot should. It becomes deconditioned and not as strong as it was. And so the foot doesn't work the way it should, so the ankle doesn't work the way it should. So the knee track's funny, the hip doesn't work the way it should, and people end up with knee pain and lower back pain because one of the causes is out of footwear. Another one is out of sitting the whole time. But the point being that if we talk at the footwear point of view, in an office situation, sometimes our practices with respect to safety address an immediate acute risk, i.e. you might step on a staple, and do make you safer by saying, look, you should wear shoes so you don't step on that staple. But in the long term, have all these chronic flow-on effects that aren't measured and aren't accounted for. And maybe you actually do more harm than good making people wear footwear around an office because we're actually completely deconditioning their feet and leading to lower back pain, which is essentially the largest complaint of pain in the Western world. So the point of this video is really, how do we figure out the spot at which a practice to deal with an acute and obvious risk confronting us now, in this case falling off that drop, how do we figure out whether that risk or our mitigation effort to protect against that obvious risk is worthwhile compared to the additional risks that it then creates, kind of chronic long-term down the track that are hard to predict. It's easy to predict, there's a risk, if there's no fence here I might fall off it. It's hard to predict the risk, which is, if the fence is broken and I lean on it, I might fall down. It's easy to predict the risk of I might step on a staple in an office. It's harder to predict the risk of, well, because I've worn shoes for ages, that my feet might start to degrade and I might end up with knee and hip and back issues out of that. I don't have a specific answer to this, but this is something that bothers me long term and I want to put out there for some discussion. And so that's the takeaway from this episode. Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask it. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.